Hello there, this Ben here once again with Studio on the Lake. This guy is the second one of the two carvings the two finished carvings that I brought down to Iowa to edit, since I'm down here until later in this week. So this guy starts out just like all the other ones start out. There's a chunk of basswood. You can see the corner of it there is not the best, but that's going to get carved off. And once again, I had no pattern. My intention on this guy, and he went wonky. If you look at the title, he was going to be old school Santa like they do in Europe. And once again, this is the second or third time I've done this. Not working from a reference. And he ended up looking more like a wizard than an old world Santa. The old world Santas, especially the German ones, were a little bit harsher looking. They were thin. They had a little bit of a stricter face on them, and that's kind of what I was going for here. And he quickly morphed into something else. So I let him do what he needed to do and turned into looking more like a wizard, and then I went ahead and did some wild and crazy painting on him. So here's the breakout of the character. Here's my standard, getting the block down basically with that grinder, and there's as far as I took it. I relieved some of the stuff in there. And I think actually at this point I could already tell that he was going to end up something other than a Santa. I was hoping not, but it happened. And unfortunately, you get to be tortured and watch him be developed. So I thought that I would share a little bit of that. A lot of you about the history of Santa Claus and where he came from. So here's a little trivia for you. The legend of Santa Claus. So how did Santa Claus come about? Well, in 20 A.D., in what's in modern day Turkey now, there was a monk, and he was named Saint Nicholas, or came to be known eventually as Saint Nicholas. He was known for his piety. He's known for his kindness. He gave away all of his inherited wealth, and he traveled the countryside helping out the poor. He was particularly kind and known as a protector of children, and he would give gifts out to the poor children around. And here's a little bit of irony for you. He was also the protector of sailors. So children and sailors, I'm not sure how that works out if you're a sailor, but it's considered his anniversary was on the 6th of December. And this is traditionally considered to be a lucky day. It's a day that you make large purchases, or another day that you would get married. And he remained quite popular on even through the Renaissance, and he became the most popular saint during the Renaissance in Europe. He even made it through the Protestant Reformation, if you follow that. Interestingly enough, he was particularly popular in Holland. So fast forward a couple of centuries to 1773 and 1774 time frame in New York. It was widely reported in the papers that St. Nicholas was celebrated on the 6th of December. His birthday was celebrated because he was especially popular in Holland. So continue around to about 1804, and there was a Dutch fellow. His name was John Pintard. He was a member of the New York Historical Society, and he gets credit for publishing a couple of poems or a paper, and on that was a woodcut. He used to get credit for the woodcut. If any of you know what a woodcut is, in the old days when they did some printing, primarily before the printing presses and stuff, well, that's not true, but they would get a wood carver, and he would make a relief carving with a negative space in there, and that was how many pictures in books are woodcuts, and it's quite challenging to do, and they do woodcuts now on linoleum primarily, but the process is the same. And then they go ahead and roll ink across the top of the woodcut, and then they set a piece of paper and roll it across that, and poof, you've got a drawing that's set in there. So the woodcut was attributed to John Pintard, but in actuality it was a carver by the name of Alexander Anderson. And that was considered what he did on that wood cut. And if you look that up, search John Pintard Christmas or Santa Claus woodcut, and you'll see that. And that was what we consider now to be, or the start of the modern Santa that we see in the U.S. And the concept that he puts kids' toys out for them. And then also he kind of started the stocking stuffer deal in there. So we move a little bit forward. John Pintard's goal at that time was to make Santa Claus the patron saint of New York. And I don't know how that came about, but then you fast forward another 20 years or so, and Christmas shopping, or stores used to put out specials for Christmas. It become kind of widely accepted. And by 1840, newspapers even had the newly popular Santa Claus, and thousands of children would visit different stores and stuff to see those, and the stores started advertising, come see a live Santa. To further it a little further, you've all seen these. In 1890s, the Salvation Army was hurting for money to pay for Christmas meals that they provided to needy families and the poor. So they grabbed a hold of this concept, and they began dressing up unemployed men in Santa Claus suits and sending them out into the streets of New York with a kettle, and they were to solicit donations. And they got a bell, and they stood there, and it lasted until this modern day. So then you go a little bit further forward, what really kind of cemented the whole thing. Santa became Kris Kringle, obviously, known by different names around the world. But The Miracle on 34th Street, the movie, brought Santa Claus into the modern day world. And now we've got the Macy's Santas. In 1924, at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Santa has been in the parade, and he's been there every time since then. And you all know, if you're alive today, that a lot of people grew up going to see the mall Santa or the Santa at the store, that kind of stuff. So, hey, there's more than you ever wanted to know about Santa Claus. And, of course, go over and check out down in the description the links to some of these other carvers. These guys we're all following. And last but not least, young Calvin, used to be Calvin Hobby, and I think his channel changed to Calvin Carves. He's a 12-year-old kid up in Canada up there, and last week or the week before, he ended up on the news, the local news. So the young fella's getting quite famous. I sent him a little bit of basswood, so he had some good wood to carve, and Jordy sent him some cottonwood, which he'll certainly love carving. But go check Calvin out. He's somewhere around the 200 range on subscribers, and it'd be kind of fun to see his channel go over 1,000. And he certainly has talent and is into this carving, and he is the future of carving, with all of us old boogers running around. So back to what we got going on in this character here. There's nothing, everything in the video is run at twice the speed, pretty much. And I think in one section, it might even be this portion right here, I ran it at 3 times. Now here's an interesting note. When you do, you don't get to see too much of it in this one because I zoomed it in a little bit, but when you run a video fast forward or 3 times, if it shows you breathing, it's kind of funny because it looks like you're hyperventilating in the video, and I noticed you have to be careful, and sometimes I can't fast forward this. It looks like you're about to stroke out and hyperventilate. So this guy, as you can see on the beard portion, he started ending up more wizardry. I was originally going to put both of his hands behind him, and then I had a chunk sitting out here on the side, and that's what I'm working on right now. And I just decided that that would be the one hand that would stand out in the front. And the good thing about that is that you've seen me do hands before, probably, if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, by all means, I encourage you to do so and go back and check out some of the other videos. So I haven't done a lot of work on his face. I just got 2 pen points there where the eyes were, and I'm coming back and cleaning this stuff up. That's a wood carver. Several people are asking about the carver, and I've been giving them the links to that PJL Enterprises. I've tried to write the character and see if I could make a drug deal with him where I could buy these at lesser than cost and offer them out to some of you people. But I haven't really got a chance to do that, and I don't know. It's a small company. I think it's ran by one guy or the family. But if I get a chance, I'll go back and after the holidays are over here, things settle down a little bit, I'll see if I can't get in touch with him and maybe work out some way to make it easier to buy these things, because they're not carried in a lot of the wood carving places anymore. And I'll put the link down below there. If I forget, just send me a comment or an email, and I'll come back and do that, because I think he is going to be surprised, because there's several people asking about the micro carver and the wood burner. So if you want to know how to do a wood spirit and how to line his beard out, that's the way it's done. Jordy Johnson did a real nice video, or several, on carving the beard. And ironically, I didn't learn this technique the way I'm doing this, laying those hairs over each other, from him, but it's kind of neat that he came up with the same thing I do, or I came up with the same thing he did. What's first, the chicken or the egg, right? A lot of these things, I've talked about knife cuts before, and how I think there's only 2 or 3 of them, but some people, basic cuts with a knife, some people have this urge to put names on several other things, but by and large there's only a couple of cuts. And if you want to see something on that, I think I cover that in a video. It was about 100 videos ago. I will probably do one more video this year, and it'll be just like last year's video. It'll be kind of a compilation of the different things that were carved this year. It's been a great year for carvers. A lot of us have hooked up together, and we reference each other, and I follow a lot of those guys, and a lot of them follow my stuff, and we're kind of a mutual aid society. And then the rest of you folks that may or may not be carvers, that just like to follow the channel. And I certainly appreciate that. I know the other carvers appreciate people watching. You don't actually have to do this to get some enjoyment out of it. It's fun to watch something develop. So I've got the older handpiece there. It's the same thing. It's an Ultima carver, and that one's a 30,000. That's about 25 years old. True story. And it has new, only thing that's been done to it was new bearings and brushes were put in it. That's got a ruby bit in there, and I'm at the point where I'm starting to sand. So if you were to carve this without a ruby bit or with a knife, and you wanted it smoother, this is where you would grab a piece of sandpaper. So the year has obviously been a challenge for everyone. I think we'll go back in 2020. There's enough stuff going on this year that it won't be like some of the other years where the events just start to fade away. But one thing is, there was a lot of carving going on this year. Next year, I'm going to start, I think, a pure knife series, and I won't actually probably get into pure caricature carving, because it's just not something that I like. Not to put those guys down. There's some awesome caricature carvers out there. And I will be doing a lot more birds and decoys, and those are going to end up being several videos long, just because of the nature of the project. I'm going to do some more of the stuff. I will do some dragons. I've been meaning to get back and repair some of the dragons that are in one of the videos that I did, and I'm kind of surprised at the interest in the magic wand that I did for one of the dwarves, one of my grandkids, for Christmas. There seems to be a lot of interest in that. I've been wanting to do some resin work, and the wands would make a nice addition to that. I wanted to put some pine cones in resin and carve them down, and then polish the resin out. But certainly it would be kind of fun to put a feather in the middle of a wand, because those of you that have done the Harry Potter trip in the past know that several of those wands in the stories have like a phoenix feather or something like that that's actually embedded in the wand. And I might even combine some of my metal work, the brass portions and pieces that I'll turn on the lathe, and fit those to the wand. So I don't think I'm done with the wands yet, and it's just one of those things that it appears the video's caught on. Now this is worth noting here, and I've said this before. This is a stone. It's one of the last of many stones that I brought back from Germany with me, and if I'm not mistaken, they were Proxima. You can find Proxima products in the United States, but this was a Proxima stone. I think they had a package of 10 for. This tells you how old they are. Probably 7 or 8 Deutschmarks. And those of you that follow world events know that the Deutschmark went the way of the dodo many years ago, and it's all euros now. Of an interesting note, we were in Germany when that happened, when the Deutschmarks died and they went to the euro, and the euro was supposed to be so much stronger than the mark. But really, all they did is like €1 was worth 2 Deutschmarks or 3 Deutschmarks. So what they did, at least to my perception, was the stores just changed it from Deutschmark to euro. So if it was 5 Deutschmarks and the next day it was 5 euros, and talk about inflation, that would have made it 15 Deutschmarks as it came about. So there's the wizard. I got the one hand kind of behind the back, and I never did finish carving behind him on his back there, his hand. And then when I got done with it, it looks, you could almost argue the case that his hand is up under his beard. So for those of you that do not, that haven't seen this before, this is pretty much my standard gnome wizard hand. Has an exaggerated finger. I like to put one finger out pointing, as in come here, or pointing at you, you do that, the index finger out. It just reads well. If you're carving a hand, there's no better reference than your own hand on that. And I was taking it down with a knife, and I was finding I had a little bit of trouble holding this because it's so small, and I was getting lazy. So you'll see me switch this over, but that's the finger between my thumb and forefinger there. The index finger is out. I'm leaving the portion where the thumb would come over. If you look down and close your hand and put one finger out, you can put your thumb in several different places, but you'll notice that then the rest of the fingers are bent back. So reference, use your own hand and exaggerate it. These hands, when I put them on, I've been putting them on with super glue lately. I did that initially. It's cold out in the studio, and it takes a while for the 5-minute epoxy to settle down and thaw out. So in the winter, I'll often switch over to the glue. So this is a Kutzall burr. Kutzall still has their 30% sale on. I've said it before. These bits are about $15 a piece, and they're well worth it. They are designed for carving, whereas a lot of the other bits are not. The Dremel bits are not. They're perfectly fine for messing around with laminates or what you're doing, but they're not good for carving. I wouldn't recommend that you use those, although many people start off with those. So to take an analogy, you can start off with any kind of a knife. You can start off with, if you're doing hand carving, any kind of chisels. It's like a musical instrument, and I played several musical instruments throughout my life. But it seems when you if you get a kid who's learning a musical instrument, a really cheap one, the problem with that is it's hard to play, it's sloppy, and it's just not enjoyable. So the kid really has to have a passion or a love of playing that instrument to make progress. And then when they do get a mid-grade or professional instrument, their playing and their musical ability jumps by leaps and bounds. I'm not saying that you need to get a Stradivarius for someone, but certainly better than a beginner grade. Well, these carving tools are the same way. You'll start to find ones that work for you. And there's the hand placed in the position I like, and he's not quite finished carving, but I will do that with the power carver. But start with good tools. They cost more, but they work so much better, and they're so much more pleasurable to work with. That's not saying that you need to get a bunch. You'll do, if a bug catches you, you'll do what a lot of us carvers have done. You'll start buying up tools from gouges and knives and stuff from flea markets and that sort of thing. And out of that, you'll end up with a really nice collection that's not very good and doesn't work very well. You'll pick 2 or 3 tools out of that over the years that you really like, and the rest of them will be on a display shelf or in a drawer somewhere. You don't need a set of professional carving tools if you're doing it by hand. The good gouges and chisels and skews and that sort of thing, and V veiners and V gouges. The good ones are going to cost you anywhere from $30 or $40 up to $100 a tool. So my recommendation would be to get one good one. If you're going to get a gouge, and this won't mean anything, nobody will remember this, get a number 8. And that'll be a smaller gouge. So this is one of those little needle diamond bits, and like these are the ones that I keep breaking. They're really wimpy. They get hot pretty rapidly, but they're kind of fun. And I'm carving that finger. And what am I using for a reference? Well, my own knotty fingers, of course. Mine doesn't look quite as bad as that one. Well, hell, you can see that. You're looking at the video there. But they're not 100% representation of the hand. You can do that if you want to get down to doing that. And then when I'm done, you see right there, I'm putting a fingernail in. And when I paint, this guy will end up with that fingernail painted. So that's the finishing work, and I'm messing around up there, putting little lines around the eyes and that sort of thing, and kind of clean it up in there. This guy kind of required paint. At this point, I was still thinking I kind of might make him into a Santa of sorts. And then when I got to painting him and got to looking at him, I just said, nah, this guy's just a straight up wizard. And you screwed up again, and now you got another wizard. So I went kind of wild and wonky on painting his robe. He's got quite a colorful robe. And I did like the way that he came out. So for next year, talking about those of you that have been following the channel and are subscribed to the channel and watch this stuff, hey, shoot me a comment and tell me what you want to see more of next year, and I'll certainly add that to my list. I get surprised by which videos catch on and which ones don't. So shoot me a comment down in there. And with Christmas just a couple days away, I want to thank all the folks who support the channel, and wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah if that's in your wheelhouse, and a New Year. And we look forward to another great year next year. So like, subscribe, and comment, and thanks a lot. Hey, this has been Ben with Studio on the Lake.